But I want to say to BFM today, and with regard to the Church Commercial Farming Group, there is an opportunity before the Bahamians like we have never seen it before. COVID-19 has leveled the playing field and allowed many persons to participate in what we will call the economic pie within our country. And so today I am honored to be a part of BFM and what you're doing with respect to community farming. Because as you know, a part of what we're doing as the Church Commercial Farming Group is our goal is running two tracks. One is to have 20,000 of our church members cross the denomination to raise up backyard farms within their own farm, within their own yard, so that they can grow what they eat and eat what they grow. And indeed, that would add the kind of nutrition that we would have not seen prior to. Secondly, we are going to involve ourselves in the processing aspect of the canning and bottling and dehydration like we have never seen before. And I am so delighted that we have more than 5 of our major denominations and more than 10 of our non-denominational churches, and we have at least a number well to over 65,000 of our church members are going to be a part of what we are doing.
You know, I remember growing up among some of my friends, we had a little saying that's a common Bahamian saying. And they used to say, you know, when somebody starts mouthing out a lot, they used to say, don't sing it, bring it. And so that's what we decided to do. We have heard a lot of talk about utilizing our natural resources and tilling the soil and tapping into that tremendous opportunity for feeding ourselves and reducing our expenditure on food. So when I was presented with the idea, I consulted with my team and we decided to go for it. We decided to bring it and not just sing it. We have to remember what the Word of God says. It says, be fruitful and multiply. And that doesn't mean just have children. That means whatever has been put under your responsibility, develop it and bring a return on it. And so that's what we have sought to do this day, to launch this very, very special initiative. And hopefully it will serve as an example to others, and it will be an impetus for all Bahamians to realize that we have to get moving. We have to stop singing it, we have to start bringing it. And hopefully other churches, organizations, individuals will begin farming in earnest and begin reaping the benefits of it.
It's an honor to have this opportunity to join you on this historic occasion. I'd like to pay my respect to a pastor who, for many, many years, we've shared the platform speaking at a range of events. And of course, when I was a student at the University of the Bahamas, then the College of the Bahamas, I attended BFM on Mackey Street. Some of you are too young to remember that time, but spent a lot of time there. And my life was certainly changed by interacting with young men and women and also benefiting from the teaching of powerful men and women of God, particularly Pastor Miles and Pastor Richard. And so I want to say to Dave Burrows, who's been consistent over the years on so many levels, that we applaud you in the government for the work that you continue to do, not just in this initiative, but in so many ways impacting the lives of young Bahamians and those that have been younger longer. And of course, to the President of the Christian Council, Bishop Fernanda, and of course Patrick Paul, who was, I believe I used to school most of his brothers in basketball in Coconut Grove over the years. This is the Over the Hill Grove. To you, both of you, and the team of ministers in this ministry and ministries throughout the country who are now leading the way in so many ways, we are appreciative of the sacrifices you continue to make. There are many persons who are very critical of the work of a number of our institutions, inclusive of the church. But as difficult as it is in the Bahamas today, with the efforts of the church, can you imagine if the church were not as active, not as impactful as it is, how much worse this society would be? And oftentimes our criticisms as Bahamians is in part, instinctively or intentionally, to deflect from what we as individuals have refused to do ourselves in transforming the Bahamian condition. And so I want to let you know that for the good things that I found in my life, I found it each time I've been under the umbrella of salvation. And everything I can count personally that have gone wrong is when I left that umbrella of salvation. And so I know that you have the formula. And so I'm never under the illusion that what we do in government is the most important set of acts in the national interest. I believe that what you do, because even when governments change, if the soul of our people do not change, conditions that persisted under one will continue under the other. And so you really are that glue for our national development, and which brings me to today's events. Once again, you have come up to the plate to bat, to do something that successive governments have not done. We have gone backwards in 20 years plus in terms of agricultural development. What our grandparents were doing in the past in some sub-sectors of agriculture was infinitely more effective than what we're doing today. In fact, we produced more poultry and eggs in the past, 20 years ago, than we do today. 98% plus of what we consume in every category of agriculture is imported. And what's interesting, for those of you that have been off to school, you know for a fact, you've tutored persons from every continent in the world. And then somehow when we come back home, we must hire them to come and educate us on how to develop a country. It's as if something happened to us on the plane ride home. But today, we have a chance to hit the reset button. And I want to congratulate BFM, that has been a historical pace setter. The Christian Council, who have stood in the gap for us when we didn't have the sense or presence of mind to do it for us. I want to congratulate you for this joint initiative, and it is our honor in the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, and by extension the government, to partner with you. So let me just say very quickly a few things. We are committed in the government to food security, and it simply means producing sufficient of the things that we need to feed our people, but producing sufficient of the right types of food with the nutritional content to benefit us physically, so we are available for nation building. But we also believe in food sovereignty. And that simply means that we ought to be the primary persons acting on our own behalf. That we cannot look to our neighbors in the north or to Brazil or Latin America in the south for our sustenance. Something is fundamentally wrong with that formula. And so a part of the work that we are doing during this period is to make sure that once again we are in charge of our own destiny. In grade 11, I made a determination I would study agriculture. I heard the founding father of this country talk about self-sufficiency, and it inspired me. We have not fulfilled the promise, but it is not too late for the generation now and those to come to do just that. We are importing in excess of $1 billion worth of food. 650 of it comes from fresh fruits and vegetables and proteins such as beef, pork, small ruminants, poultry, meats, and some of the value-added products. And then, of course, another 400 million plus comes from the processed food, the value-added foods. We can do better than that. We've gone through some shocks in this economy. 9/11, we thought we had the wake-up call that the country collectively, policymakers, private sector, other NGOs, faith-based organizations, that we had seen the light, that a disruption in international trade could result in shortage of critical things that we need for our national development. And something happened. The thing you know better than anyone else, we backslid as a country. We had the epiphany. We had the vision. We responded to the conviction. And then after the economy, the borders opened once again and everything was flowing, we backslid. Here we are again, in the midst of a pandemic. In the midst of a pandemic, where there are disruptions in the international value chain and supply chain, where tourism is on its back and the whole country is hovered over it, trying to perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And some of the other children in the room, like agriculture, marine resources, light manufacturing, are standing in the wings, waiting on the parents to do a good job there, but saying, let's dispatch at least one side of that father-mother team to make sure the other siblings are doing fine. And so we have to make a decision that as we emerge out of this pandemic, it can no longer be the case where structurally the resources of this country are disproportionately going to tourism and going to financial services. And there are other pillars of our development that we are neglecting in the process. It would be really inconceivable that wise men and women of God are not rising to the challenge to make a determination that we must pay attention to all sides of our national economy and, of course, make a determination. We'll do so in practical ways, not sing it, bring it, meaning increasing the allocation to manufacturing, light manufacturing, to agriculture, to marine resources, using our environment to feed our people, to making sure that the natural resources of this country accrue benefit first and foremost to Bahamians. So what you do today in backyard farming is we are lighting a candle for those who can shave funds off their food bill individually. 2, those who would want to graduate to community farms so that neighbors can gather together around properties that continue to be overgrown, where there are derelict vehicles, where there are dilapidated homes. Imagine an over-the-hill program where you no longer go through communities as successive governments have done. We clear properties, create a few opportunities for a brief moment, only for those properties to be overgrown once again, as opposed to being mulched, as opposed to being farmed, to feed the neighborhood, to give people hope of a different kind of future that we deserve as a people. And so the backyard farming is a feeder system for community gardens, for urban gardens. It's a feeder system for commercial agriculture, where men and women, young men and women, older men and women have an opportunity to own a piece of the rock, to use it to cultivate a different kind of future for them and their children. And so the ministry, through our emergency food program, we have made available some 10,000 backyard kits. We will have another 20,000 backyard kits before the year is out that will be distributed throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We've already commenced in the clearing of a number of properties in order to initiate community gardens. Right now in Grand Bahama, we're looking forward to collaborating with the Christian Council in working with churches throughout this country so that these parcels can be utilized by them and their membership, so that we can feed our people and, of course, generate income. It is our hope, Pastor Dave, that in addition to what you're doing here in terms of fruits and vegetables, that you would also take advantage of the program that we have where we are distributing layer birds. In other words, poultry that will produce eggs, so that we are able 365 days a year, plus that leap year, to have eggs available that have been locally produced. Sometimes I hear the saying, buy Bahamian, and I'm on board 242 to the world. But I don't only want to buy Bahamian, I want to produce and then buy Bahamian. Because only to buy Bahamian may be empowering the same usual merchants who are committed and addicted to import-export. What we are saying, it is about us producing for us. And we're not living in a fantasy world. We know we are unable, Pastor Dave, to produce all things. And that's why the decisions that we make is evidence-based. It's based on studies. The IDB study we have recently commissioned clearly shows that there are 77 out of hundreds of agriculture products that we have the capacity to produce. In other words, we can substitute what we import for what we produce in a very targeted way. And that is what we are advocating. Not that you produce, we're not advocating that you produce rice. No, instead we say produce cassava. It is a wonderful and a healthier substitute for it. We are saying we have a real opportunity. The ministry believes in collaboration. We cannot, and we have proven historically, we have not done it alone. And so we're working very closely first within the context of government with the Ministry of Finance and the Access Accelerator Program with the Small Business Development Center to make available funds, the largest amount of funds ever made available in the history of the Bahamas for light manufacturing, for small business development, for agricultural development. In agriculture alone, there's $5 million available for those persons who are interested in getting into the field in a number of areas. We wish to partner with you, and we will make sure that faith-based organizations get their fair share of these resources. When you talk about 65,000 members, again, you have your finger on the pulse of this country. It would be remiss of us not to work in tandem with you. And so I want to say that I'm happy to be here. I believe that this program is going to catch a fire. Already the buzz is out there in this community. And so as I close, I want to invite you to take the street meetings throughout all of the areas where your churches exist. It's an amazing thing. Wherever you find a church, there's a sphere of influence. And maybe it means that you say within 400 meters of all of our churches, which happen to take in the entire country, within 400 meters of our churches, we are going to hold it down. We are going to influence what happens. And food security will be one of those areas. Right now, the government feeding program is finally buying from farmers and from fishers. It's a wonderful thing. We have mandated through cabinet that 40% of every food source that is purchased must come from Bahamian producers. Hotels, restaurants, and food stores, we are guaranteeing the market. What we need now is to guarantee the production. It's one thing to have access to the market. It's another thing to correct all of the gaps along the supply chain to make sure we produce and get it to the market. We stand with you. And if you're producing tomatoes of a certain variety, there isn't a possible chance we're going to permit others to import those items without first coming to you to get the 40% that we are mandating. So Pastor Dave, we stand with you. We applaud you. And me as someone who has come through the jumper church, the non-denominational church, when I stand, any good thing come out of me is because I've stood on your shoulder, followed your guidance. And I want you to know you have an ally in me, and not just in me, in many colleagues. And it's time that we insist that persons in positions of influence who benefit from your teaching must not only demonstrate it when they are in church, they must demonstrate it in the places where they work. It's the only way your influence is going to resonate in this country. And so thank you once again for being the leaders that God have called you to be, and we stand in solidarity with you. God bless you.
Years ago, we would have, when I first became president, put forward a working together in community farming and a broader reach program that will convert community centers with farming and now commercial farming. So it is the idea of the Christian Council with the churches throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that on our properties we will have small farms that will be donated to members, that will give young people opportunities to go in and farm. We will have at-risk farms. We have children that are sent to us from detention. Many Bahamians don't know, every week in school, when school was normal, children were sent to churches to do community service or to be witnessed to. We can now use them in our community farms, help give them a trade, help to teach them something about feeding themselves and develop them, and then turn it into community centers where their homework can be addressed, their ministry can be addressed. And it is the government's intention that when hurricanes come, these community centers will be hurricane shelters. So we are partnering for a national development. We believe it's possible, one farm at a time, and then we're going to take it commercial. And when we finish with commercial, a lot of what is taking place, we've tapped into the resources that produce a Samaritan purse. Now we're taking it to farming. Watch the church develop and become that kind of arm of our country. We don't carry crosses all the time, but we're internationally positioned to to do these things around the world.